Good morning or afternoon, depending on what part of the world you guys are in. I'm Ryan Pennant from QWare, and I want to thank you guys for your time today. And today we're going to be discussing our telephony solution, intelli-CTi, which connects your users' phones to Infor CRM SLX. Now I'm going to be taking you guys through a live demonstration of the solution, and afterwards we will have some time to answer any questions that you may have. So please feel free to use the questions area to submit those questions. Also, I do have some of my teammates here online as well, and they will be answering questions throughout. So if time is a constraint for you, feel free, and we will get to them as soon as possible. All right. And the presentation should last about 30 minutes, so we'll get you back to your day pretty quickly. And of course, there will be a recording of this, so you will have access to that after the demonstration as well. Sound good? All right, so let's get started. So, as you guys may know, really there's a significant importance on providing a greater customer experience in the CRM space, right? And we at QWare are really passionate about delivering a better experience for all Infor CRM users. Now, intelli-CTi is designed to enhance both the user and the customer experience, as well as, of course, increase user efficiency and adoption. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about customer expectations, right? As we all know, customers are continuing to set the bar higher and higher in terms of what they expect from the technologies that they interact with, right? And of course, CRM is no different. Now, we know that they demand really a seamless and highly relevant experience really at all interactions, which is driving a shift in the way that we all as organizations have to adapt and operate. Now, customers expect fast access to information, as well as, of course, people. Think of service reps and sales reps, right? They also expect technologies to really work seamlessly together, and of course, a high level of security. And more customers really expect more automation in the solutions that they use, right? But perhaps most importantly, customers want to be treated like a person, not a number, right? And I think we can all really relate to that. And this is really why providing a personal experience is so important, okay? Now, I do want to discuss some of the challenges we see today regarding phone interactions between users and customers as it's related to the CRM system. Now, what we see often is really poor call efficiency, right? There's no workflows, too many clicks, and it's really hard to efficiently capture data during or after the call. And unfortunately, some users just aren't really good at that, right? And of course, users can't often find the caller's record fast enough, or in some cases at all, right? So that makes things a bit awkward for both user and for the customer. And as a result of these things, we see low call volume rates as well. And also really a lack of sufficient data that's captured by the users, which really leads to poor customer service on future calls, right? Because the new sales rep today is taking the call, doesn't really know what happened last week because the other user didn't capture that information, because the relevant call history is just not being captured correctly. And finally, really poor integration between the phone system and Infor really leads to both frustrated users and customers. And it really isn't the user's fault. They just simply don't have the tools in place to deal with the customer's needs. And this is really critical because in a recent survey by Accenture, 75% of customers are more likely to make a purchase from a company that knows their name and purchase history and recommends products based on their preferences, right? And this is really where intelli-CTi truly shines. Okay, now it is designed to improve the productivity and really streamline users' phone interactions while providing really a better customer experience, right? So from an inbound call perspective, intelli-CTi allows identification of the caller before the user even has answered the call, right? It automatically opens up the caller's record in CRM, and of course it associates the call to the appropriate CRM record, right? So we have all of the information at our fingertips the minute the phone rings. Now, from an outbound dialing perspective, it's really a breeze. With intelli-CTi's simple click-to-dial feature, there's really no need to worry about dialing a 9 or an 8 for an outside extension or any dialing rules, if you will. Just simply click and the phone picks up the phone and starts dialing it out. Now, intelli-CTi also really improves the call flow management, right? So it really encourages best practices for optimum productivity and efficiency, as you'll see when we take you through the demo. And really with its simple post-call processing, intelli-CTi allows for easy association and scheduling of follow-up calls, whether it be against an account, a contact, a lead, an opportunity, a ticket, what have you, right? And finally, from a data analytics standpoint, because intelli-CTi automatically captures this data where the user doesn't have to think about it. There's tons of rich data in there that drives your data and your analytics, whether you're using BI tools or what have you, okay? All right, so enough for the slides. I do want to now take you through a live demonstration of the product, all right? Now, today I will be working with Infor CRM version 8.5, but we do support versions all the way back from 7.5.4 through 8.5, both the web and the land, okay? Now, I will be using the web client today, but as we go through this process today, I'm going to take you through a couple of different inbound call scenarios, one which there's a single match where only one person has that phone number, and show you how that works, and of course, opportunity ticket association, that type of thing. I'll take you through some inbound calls that where more than one person shares the same phone number, and even cases where the number's not in the system, right? Whether that person is in CRM, but we don't recognize the current phone that they're calling in from, or perhaps they're a new lead. And we'll talk about missed calls, and then finally we'll wrap it up with outbound calls and all the different ways you can do that as well. And of course, discuss all the rich data that's in there, okay? All right, so without further ado, let's jump into the live demo. Now, a couple bit pieces here. So I'm going to be using a phone call simulator switch here. You can see this little bit here, the VTS. That just allows me to simulate inbound and outbound calls because I'm not actually connected to a live phone system. Just makes things a lot easier. And this is something you could actually use in testing as well as in the evaluation that we offer, all right? And the real star of the show is this little sidebar here that every intelli-CTi user will get what we call the intelli-CTi Breeze application, which allows us to interact with those inbound and outbound calls, okay? And of course, last but not least, we have Infor CRM, okay? So Infor will allow us, obviously, to show you how this all interacts and plays very nicely. Okay, so like I said, what I want to start with is inbound calls first, okay? And I do want to start first with an inbound call from somebody whose number is already in the system, okay? And so we're gonna go ahead and do that now. And so I'm gonna just say, okay. And we can see now an inbound call is coming in. Now my phone would be ringing on my desk, or if I had a connected headset device, it would of course be in my ear. But you can see here on screen that intelli-CTi opens up and shows me right away that Jennifer Puzowski is calling here from Acme Consulting. Now I can answer the phone by picking up the phone on my desk or activating my headset, or we do provide remote call control features here. So I can just simply click answer the call and say, hey, good morning, Miss Puzowski. How can I help you today? So here, because intelli-CTi tells me who it is who's calling, I can actually answer the call very personally, right? Giving that, again, raising that bar for the customer's expectations, right? Now, once I've identified, in fact, it is Jennifer, down below here, you can see that I've got Jennifer's contact and account here in CRM, and I just want to verify that it's her. So once I know it's her, by clicking on that, it does two things. One, it associates the call now automatically to her and her account, and as you can see, it opens up the record for me. Now, she has kind of a challenging last name, right? So usually what I would have to do is go in here, find out who it is, ask her how to spell her last name, do a right-click lookup, and then possibly mess up her name a couple times, keep asking her how to spell her name. I don't have to worry about any of that, right? Because intelli-CTi did it all for me. Opens up a record. Now I've got all of her information right in front of me on my, at my fingertips, what she last called about, what products she may have purchased from us, and the like, okay? Just makes it a much better experience for both the user and, of course, more importantly, the customer. Now, while I'm on this call, maybe I've got a question. We do provide additional remote call control features here. So maybe she's got a question and I got to go ask my support team. I can place her on hold or I can unhold her. You may also notice that I've got this little notepad that opens automatically on both inbound and outbound calls, just to remind the user, hey, while you're on a call, at any point, if you want to take some notes, you can go ahead and do that. So perhaps maybe Jennifer called to discuss, maybe a data quality project that we're working with, okay? So I can go ahead and type in some information in here. Jennifer called to discuss her data quality project. And then, of course, when I'm done with the call, I can simply hang up by either putting down, my handset back on my physical phone here on my desk, turn off my Bluetooth headset, or we, of course, have a hang up button here. And by doing so, it ends the call, of course. And now you can see that we automatically open up the out-of-the-box phone call activity record. But we've completed all the information for the user. So not only did the user not have to remember to open up a phone call or create a phone call activity record, but we've now completed all the information for them. So we can see here it's an inbound call and the date and time. We, of course, have logged the user, as well as those notes that I took there on the sidebar, right? Which, of course, I can obviously amend additionally if I want to. But again, the user doesn't have to think about any of the stuff, right? They just simply ended the call and we did the rest. And of course, we associated it to the account and the contact, and obviously it's Infor. We can associate it to opportunities and tickets and so forth. But the main thing is now we've done all the work for the user. They can go ahead and complete and then say it's completed now. And now when, of course, we're here at Jennifer's contact record, that information is automatically logged. So perhaps when she calls in next week and speaks to somebody else, the other user will know immediately what she's calling about, see what she and I spoke about today, and again, providing just a better experience for both the user and, of course, more importantly, the customer. Okay. Now, not only do we create a phone call activity record in here, right, your out-of-the-box scenario, but we do actually additionally capture what we call intelli-CTi call history data. Okay, so it just enhances the out-of-the-box data, things like call duration to the second. Was an inbound, outbound call. Was it established versus missed versus no answer? And of course, linking things to opportunities and whatnot, as well as even capturing the number that the person called in from, or perhaps even, depending on your phone system, what number they dialed into. So again, all of this rich data now is being captured automatically without the user even having to think about it, okay? So that was an inbound call from a number that was associated to just one person. But as we know these days, not everybody has direct inward dial numbers or, an extension for each user, right? So if somebody calling from Acme and Acme doesn't have direct inward dials, it would be every call coming from, ending in 5000. We would have no idea who's actually speaking. So let's talk about how we would handle something like that, okay? So I'm going to generate an inbound call from a number that is not unique to just one person. So we'll do that now, and we've got an inbound call, and you can see immediately that intelli-CTi again opens up as the phone begins ringing, and it shows, hey, multiple contacts from advising group, the account that I have. And we can see down below here that I've got a couple of different people that are part of that phone number or associated with that phone number or that company. Now, if I had more than two, maybe I had 5 or 6 or 7 people, we would have scroll bars here that we could scroll to. But of course, the first thing that I have to do is identify who's actually calling me. So I, of course, answer the call, say good morning to QWare. In this case, the caller identifies himself as Brian Fisher. So all I have to do is go down here, find Brian Fisher, select his name, and by doing that, it now associates the call to Brian's contact record as well as, of course, his account. And as you can see, it opens up his record for me. So now I've got all of this information at my fingertips, again, without having to go doing a lookup in Infor. It just does it for me, okay? So, maybe Brian, had some questions about maybe an invoice, so perhaps we discuss some invoice stuff. Again, just like you saw with the previous call from Jennifer, I can take some notes in here, I can place the call on hold, what have you. But at the end of the day, I can end it, and just like with the call with Jennifer, everything's automatically tracked against Brian's record, right? And of course, I can say, great, okay, and now we've got an activity in here, okay? And of course, the call history, as you would expect. So that's an inbound call from somebody who has, from a number that is shared by more than one person. So what happens, of course, if somebody calls and the phone number is not recognized? Now, this could be a couple of reasons for this, right? First, it could be that maybe the person is in my system, but as we all know, we haven't spoken to him in a while, and he's working from home. So we don't have his home phone number in the system, but we have his record. Or of course, it could actually be somebody who's maybe a new lead that we don't have in the system. Either way, I'll show you how we handle that. So in this case, I'm gonna go ahead and generate inbound phone call from a number that is not recognized in the system. So we'll go ahead and do that here. And intelli-CTi will do a data dip again with this phone number, check to see if there's any matches, and it will show me very quickly, hey, I don't know this phone number. It's not in Infor, okay? So of course, the first thing I need to do is find out who in fact is on the call. So I'm gonna go ahead and just answer the phone, say, good morning, it's QWare, how can I help you? And then I can find out perhaps maybe this person's name is Lou Balbo. First thing I wanna do is find out, is Lou in my system, right? So generally what I would do here is I would just go ahead and do a quick lookup on Balbo and see if Lou exists. Okay, I'll do that now. And I'll see if I've got him in here, and we see that in fact Lou is in the system. Great. So what happens is whether I select him, okay, or I go into his record, either way you can see that intelli-CTi picked up on that and said, hey, I've noticed that you've navigated to Lou Balbo's record. And did you want to associate this call with Lou? Are you in fact talking to Lou? And in this case, of course, I am. And so all I have to do is basically hit select. And by doing that, it, of course, as you saw, as with the other previous scenarios, it will associate the call to Lou and to his account. And of course, away we go. All of the data is now captured in the system, right? And maybe Lou needs advice on whatever it may be, right? So we can put some notes in here and end the call. But the main thing here is that intelli-CTi saw that you had gone to that record and of course assumed, and of course you agreed, yes, that was Lou. So now we've got the information captured against Lou. And of course we can update his phone number at this point to make sure that we have it. So the next time he calls, it of course is identified. Now, what happens if in fact that call came in and that person was not in the system? In that you would want to create a new contact, and at the point that the contact was saved, you would get that same selection. Hey, are you speaking to this, whoever this new contact may be? Maybe it's Allison Smith, and then you would hit select, and it would of course associate the call to the new contact you just added. Because you guys get it, we all know how to add contacts into the CRM system, but it would be the same exact thing that you just saw. I just have to have that record on screen, and it will give me the option to select them. Okay. So that's inbound calls from unknown numbers. There's one other scenario that might happen from an inbound call perspective. So for example, maybe I went off to lunch, okay, and maybe Jennifer Pozowski, who I spoke to originally, calls me, right? And of course I was away from my desk. And so she calls, and then I'm off somewhere. And what happens is when an inbound call comes in and I don't answer it, you get this little missed call banner that's come here. So when I come back to my desk, sit down, I can see, oh, I missed a call. And I can simply click on this and it will open up our call history dialog, and it opens up to the missed calls. And I can see right away who in fact that person was who called me. So I can see it was Jennifer Pozowski at Acme, and I don't have to go into CRM to go hunt them down. I can literally call them from here, okay? So I can just double click, it'll pick up the phone and it will dial it out. And of course, in this case, I know it's Jennifer, so I want to bring up her information. I can go ahead and click that, and it will bring up her information and associate the call. So it's very nice to have that missed call feature, because again, from a user perspective, it just makes it easy. It saves me time, saves me clicks, the whole 9 yards. And of course, I can get back to Jennifer really fast, again, providing a better customer experience for her, okay? So that's all the inbound calls I'm going to cover. Let's switch gears and talk about outbound calls, okay? So I'm going to actually, since I'm going to do a little dialing for dollars here, I'm going to pin the sidebar here so that it just stays there. And then I'm going to go to a list of contacts here, a list of hot prospects, if you will. So these are people that I have to follow up on, maybe first thing in the morning, Tuesdays and Thursdays, just want to give a rundown and just see where these folks are at, right, from an opportunity standpoint. So the nice thing here is whenever I'm at a list view, as we all know, Infor has these hyperlinks here, right? And as you would expect, I can select a hyperlink and it will dial out. I don't have to worry about a trunk access, right? Hitting a 9 or an 8 to get a dial tone. I don't have to worry about any dialing rules. I can simply click it and it will pick up the phone, in this case off speakerphone, and just begin dialing, okay? And you can see though on the side, because I'm calling from Infor, it knows, oh, you must be calling Tyler Adler because you initiated the call, right? And in this case, the answer is yes. I can associate the call Tyler as before, and obviously it opens up his record as you would expect. And just like what we saw from before, it automatically associates the call, and of course I can take some notes, right? So for example, maybe I called Tyler to follow up on a service contract or something, right? Just like you saw with inbound, when I hang up the phone, I get the familiar phone call activity, which again is all completed, except of course this time it now says an outbound call, okay? instead of an inbound. And again, it populates everything that you would expect it to populate, right? So whether it's an inbound or outbound call, we're creating that phone call activity, and of course, we're capturing all of that great data in the system. All right. So that was outbound call from a list view using a hyperlink. But what about other ways to call? Now we have this nifty little area here in the sidebar we call the intelli-CTi entity dialer, or the dialer app. And what's really great about this is as I navigate to a record, right, whether I'm in a list view here of contacts, this could be opportunities, accounts, leads. As I select a record or navigate to the record, it will show me the person's information and all their phone numbers, right? So whether I start here at the top of my list here, it shows me Vince Abbott here and all of his phone numbers. And as I proceed to go through and click on each of these records, it will say, oh, so you might want to call this person, here's all their phone numbers. And I don't have to go into the record to find the phone number that I'm looking for, right? If I know, for example, that Vince Abbott is best reached maybe at his home number, I can select the home number and hit dial or double click it. It does the same thing. And of course, it'll pick up the phone and dial out, right? I won't finish this call. You guys have seen this several times now. Another great thing though about the entity dialer, okay, is that it keeps track of the last 50 people that I've navigated to or have spoken to, okay? So you can see that if I remember, I got to call Jennifer back about something. I can scroll down here without having to leave my screen that I'm on here in Infor or go navigate to her. I can just look to see if she's here in the entity dialer, right? And if she's in here or whoever else I wanted to speak to are here, I can see their information and just call them back, right? And it just makes things a lot easier from a user perspective. I'll go ahead and hang that up. All right, so that's outbound dialing from the entity dialer, whether it's from a history or obviously as you're selecting to a particular record. If you were to pick up the phone and dial manually and that person was in the system, intelli-CTi would recognize the phone number and of course it would allow you to associate the call to them. Other great features besides from an account, contact, or lead list is from, let's say, an opportunity or a ticket. So let's say I'm looking through a list of my opportunities, okay? And I basically, as I'm going through each of these, I want to call somebody back, right? So for example, I'm on this one, it will actually look at who the contact is for that opportunity and show me that person and their phone number. And same thing like you saw on the contact list, right? Now, the nice thing about this, let's say, I'm working through this list and I look at Acme Consulting. That was the one where Jennifer is. You can see Jennifer's here now listed. I want to call her back. What's great is when I initiate the call from an opportunity, it's actually going to automatically link the call not only to the contact and the account, but to the opportunity as well, okay? So in this case, we can see when Jennifer picks up here in the third ring, I'm now talking to her. And of course, maybe I got a voicemail, what have you. I could leave a message. But the main thing is, again, I can associate this call from the opportunity perspective. So when I hang up the call and I get the phone call activity, you can see, of course, I get the usual stuff, but now it automatically links it to the opportunity, okay? So I didn't have to do anything as a user. I didn't have to think about this, right? It just does it for me, all right? So that wraps up inbound and outbound calls. A couple quick things here. Not only do we provide, obviously, the dialer app and what have you, and the history and the missed call features, we also, in terms of the data, we do also allow the user to see all of their phone call activities information right here via the intelli-CTi navbar menu item, okay? So if I want to see just my phone call activities across all of the people I've spoken to, I can see that right here, as well as, of course, any scheduled, right, future phone calls that I've created as part of my process here. And it just makes things a little bit easier. Now, again, all of this great data has been captured both on the inbound and the outbound calls, okay? And since it's all been automatically captured without having the users having to think about it, this data is really now here in your system, allowing you to run whatever analytics, whether it be reports or your favorite BI tool, right? So if I want to see things like call activity of your top 10 customers, right? That's now in the system. Number of hours to close a specific opportunity or ticket, like you just saw, I'm linking it to opportunities. All of that data is now there, right? Total number of inbound or outbound calls per user, who's making the most outbound calls. Why is this guy so successful? Because we can see how much time he's spending on the phone to the opportunities or to the leads, right? All of this stuff is now in your system at your disposal to report off of, okay? So that concludes the live portion of the show. I want to go back and finish out with a couple of quick slides, and we'll jump into some questions. So let's just do this. So hopefully you guys see some of the key features and some of the takeaways, right? Obviously, increased user productivity from one end to the other, right? They don't have to think about what comes next during the phone call. They don't have to look up a contact or ask the person how to spell their last name. It's just simply click and the workflows just take care of things, right? And it really creates a much more simplified and powerful workflow from end to end, all right? It really improves the customer interactions more than anything, right? Because the customer is being treated like a person. You don't have to ask them how to spell their name. You can actually answer the phone. Good morning, Ms. Guzowski. How can I help you today, right? And I've got all their information at my fingertips, right? So I can see why they called last week, what products and services that they may have purchased from us, right? It's just there, a much better user experience. And of course, all the data is in the system, right? So now we could run our favorite BI tools and reports and get all of that rich data and make decisions based on data, not on guesswork. And of course, most of all, just a much more improved user experience as well, okay? All right, well, that wraps up the presentation. As I mentioned, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask them now in the questions pane. If you want to get more information, you can, of course, reach out to your Infor partner or to QWare. And of course, we do provide free trials. Alternatively, you can search intelli-CTi on the web or connect with us here at Twitter or LinkedIn. And of course, you've got my information here down below. If you want to reach out to myself directly, I can help out with any demos, any questions you guys might have. And we do offer free evaluations. So we will help you, your partner, and your phone provider to get the system installed in your environment so that you can really take it out for a test spin to make sure it meets your needs. Okay. All right, I want to thank everybody for your time today, and let's see if we have any questions. All right, looks like I've got a few here. First question was about pricing. That's a good one because I had actually prepared a slide for that one. So pricing, here's global pricing, by the way, for all of you, depending on where you are in the world here, so we do have a global audience. So basically, you only license those who are going to actually use the system, okay? So you might have 100 users, but only 10 to 15 people maybe in a call center or support team that you need to have this software. You would only license those 10 to 15 people, not all your CRM users, right? And it is a minimum of 10 users. And we do require a 12-month subscription initially. After that, you can go month to month. And of course, there's your prices per user per month, okay? Now, there is a one-time setup fee and provisioning that those prices are below. So as you can see, in the US, it's $975, or in UK, it's $750. Again, that's one time. We don't charge any of this up front. We will install this, again, as an eval in your system. You won't pay for anything unless you, of course, at the time decide, hey, yes, this worked for us. We want to proceed with the purchase. At that point, you'll pay provisioning. But get the trial installed, it's totally free. All right, let's see if we have another question here. It looks like someone asked if this works on the LAN client, the old LAN client. Yes, it does, but obviously web and up to Infor Sales Logics 8.5. Another question here about phone system compatibility. Great question. We do support a lot of different phone systems. In fact, ideally, if you want, you can go to our website. In fact, if you go into, I'm going to bring this over so you guys can see this. So if you go to intelli-CTi.com, you can go here into the Help Center, and the Help Center will give you a telephone compatibility option. You can go into this and see the different phone systems that we work with. And if you go into more info, you get the specific requirements. Some phone systems require a license from your phone provider and what have you. As you can see, we do support a lot of different phone systems. All right, let's see what else we have here. Somebody's asking if it supports work from home. So from that, I think what you mean is if obviously I'm at my office, excuse me, I'm not in my office, I'm at home, right? And a lot of us are still at home, not per se for COVID, but for a lot of other reasons. You know, companies are just allowing a lot of us to work from home today. So as long as it all depends on the phone system, okay? As long as the user has either a soft phone, right, or a physical phone that is connected to their office system, we would support that. They just need the internet connection, of course, for Infor, and of course, we do need to have a line of sight to their phone system. Now, if they have a cloud-based phone system, we would support that as well. Okay, all right. It doesn't look like I have any more questions. Just one last call for questions. Anybody has anything? Give you a couple seconds to get it in. But you do have, of course, my information. So going back here, again, if you guys want to reach out to me for a personal demo, any additional questions, if you guys are shy or I realize you guys have to get on to your day. As promised, I wrapped up in about 30 solid minutes. So I do want to thank everybody for joining us today, for your time. I know it's a busy work day and all, start of the week still. So I hope you guys all have a fantastic rest of your week. And thanks, appreciate you. From everybody here at the QR team.